Thanks to the thorough management and coaching skills of Graham Wesley and Graham Pearce, though, Farnborough's players were a lot more professional and never looked likely to rise to the bait like that, and they were all as well prepared as usual for the following Saturday's home match against mid-table Hendon. In fact, the squad had now been strengthened for the final run-in with the on-loan signing of experienced conference striker Paul Fewings from Boston United as a replacement for the injured Steve Darlington, but he had to make do with a place on the substitutes bench for this game as Ian Baird kept his place in the starting line-up. However, Tim O'Shea was left out this time with Chris Piper coming in, so that meant a change back to the 4-4-2 formation which had conceded very little at the back during Farnborough's long winning run. Unlike many of Farnborough's more recent opponents though, Hendon were fielding a side packed with experienced players, many of whom had played in the conference or higher. Indeed, Hendon's disappointing position of 14th in the table was due to the fact that they'd suffered a lot more from postponements than any other club in the division, and therefore had a huge backlog of fixtures. And they proved that they weren't a bad side in the first half by restricting Farnborough to just two reasonable chances, the first of which came in the 20th minute when Mickey Warner perhaps fired his low cross a bit too hard at Gary Crawshaw, who couldn't adjust himself in time to divert the ball into an empty net. Farnborough's other chance of a scoreless first half, though, didn't come until the 38th minute when Jimmy Dack tried an ambitious shot from an acute angle, which nearly surprised Hendon keeper Gary McCann at his near post, but perhaps a cross might have been a better idea. At least the home supporters got some entertainment at half-time, though, from the Farnborough Town mascot, which was presumably meant to be some sort of bug, although there was no mention of what its name was in the matchday programme. As for Hendon, they hadn't looked like scoring at all so far, so maybe some of their players had a bug, although it was more likely a lack of match practice after having so many games called off. That meant they couldn't afford to be reduced to 10 men, otherwise they'd have no chance, but they obviously should have been just 3 minutes after the break when Warren Kelly was adjudged to have fouled Ian Baird just as he was about to shoot, with only keeper McCann to beat. Referee Ward, though, didn't even reach for the yellow card, which incensed Farnborough manager Graham Wesley, who was out of his dugout moaning about the decision for a full 5 minutes afterwards. Wesley would have been even more annoyed had Hendon taken the lead from their first chance of the match 9 minutes later then, but thankfully Ross Pickett headed wide at the far post after getting on the end of Jason Solomon's unintentional flick-on. However, it was Farnborough who broke the deadlock in the 64th minute when Darren Annan's strangely looping free kick was headed on by both Barry Laker and Gary Crawshaw for Lenny Piper to volley in past keeper McCann, although surely he meant to strike the ball a bit cleaner into that far corner. Having seen his side take the lead, Farnborough manager Graham Wesley then decided to bring on new signing Paul Fewings 2 minutes later to save the legs of the ageing Ian Baird, and Fewings was to make quite an impact with Hendon now having to push up a bit more in search of an equaliser. Indeed, he showed some good pace in the 70th minute when he ran onto a mistimed defensive header from Darren Annan's long ball, but Hendon skipper Warren Kelly made a good clean challenge this time, although referee Ward didn't think so and wrongly awarded a goal kick. Of course, that started Graham Wesley off again on the touchline, but he calmed down a bit when one of the two substitutes he'd introduced so far, Tony Taggart, produced an excellent mazy run seconds later, which caused all sorts of panic in the Hendon defence, with the ball eventually falling to Paul Fewings again, who severely tested keeper McCann with a well-struck effort from close range. However, McCann made an even better save from Fewings in the 76th minute when he got down sharply to his left to turn aside a well-placed shot which was heading for the bottom corner. But the Hendon defence was now starting to get torn apart, and a second goal for Farnborough really looked on the cards. Indeed, it came just seconds later from the resulting corner when defender Barry Laker, who was actually skipper for the day, showed his prowess in the air by leaping a good foot higher than three Hendon defenders to make it 2-0 and virtually kill the game off. However, Hendon did have a rare chance just a minute later when substitute Dale Binns took advantage of a stumble by Darren Annan to race in on goal, but keeper Stuart McKenzie was well positioned to make a decent save. Although Binns had looked quite lively since he came on, it was Farnborough's two substitutes, Tony Taggart and Paul Fewings, who had really turned the game, and they both caused the Hendon defence problems again in the 79th minute, when Taggart somehow managed to get through on the left before a clever piece of skill from Gary Crawshaw set up Fewings for another shot at goal, which again forced keeper McCann into an excellent save. Hendon then tried to stop the rot by making a double substitution shortly afterwards, but it had no effect, and 2-0 was the final outcome after yet another ruthless performance from Farnborough, in which they proved that they could knock over teams in mid-table or just above, in addition to the strugglers at the bottom of the division.